Get to do imaging on it then, or what?
We can. There's we got an ST10 that's hanging off of it, and there's also we got a 4-shooter assembly at the back, so it allows us four ports that we can rotate the prism to. So we've got visual eyepiece on one. There's a small, real flat focal or focuser, shallow focuser, so you can go to a T-mount with a DSLR, and we have an ST10 up on the up on top. It's a Cassegrain, but we have a secondary has a flip on it, so we can flip from a Cassegrain to a Newtonian. So we can go from an F12 in the Cassegrain mode to an F6 in the Newtonian, and that has an S10 hanging on it, with a full set of filter wheel on it.
Wow, that's very impressive. Who's the brains behind all
Wonderful.
Let's start actually going way back. I mean, Bob Nelson was part of it, and then there was another member that was at the College of New Caledonia as well. So that kind of got built up over time, and like anything else, you don't really throw out telescopes. You send the mirrors back in to get them reconfigured and up to modern specs and standards. And then we went from old digital, or just from good old setting circles to what an NGC digital system that was on it. And then here a few years ago, we went to full computerized go-to with the scope. And then we have barcode readers on the dome with a drive motor and a barcode reader, so little labels every 5 degrees. So the barcode reader reads the barcode, so it knows where the dome is, and then the software synchronizes that up to the telescope. So,
Wow, good deal.
so we have a few members that are good at certain things, and so we just kind of keep picking away at it.
There you go.
You know, the roof started out as a grain silo. I think it came up out of Abbotsford someplace.
Oh, that's smart. That's smart.
Yeah, and I think there's a 1952 or 54 Austin Healy rear end and differential that opens and that drives the slot with a motor for it to open and close. It beats having the old hand crank of 52 cranks to open it and 52 cranks to close it at the end of it when you're doing it. So now you just push the button and it
There you go.
chugs away. So
Is this
it's nice.
I looked online for pictures of your setup, and there are none.
We have a website crash, and we're just in the midst of redoing the website. The server that was on crashed, and so we're just kind of in a bit of a temporary, but
Yeah. Well, good. Well, good for you guys.
Could we ask somebody to give us a tour of it some night, Blair?
Yeah, that'd be great.
yeah, hopefully we should be able to. We got Wi-Fi out there, so we should be able to connect in and do that.
Or just a bunch of pictures. But who would be the person you would recommend who could give the talk on it?
Probably myself. I probably know as much about it as anybody, being a member for almost about 18 years.
Oh, wow.
And like I say, involved with a lot of the work on the scope. So yeah, I'll put together, I'll snap some pictures, and it's kind of an interesting old beast that we put together.
Well, good for you.
So what's the weather like down there? We just had absolute dumping rain here today, so.
Cloudy.
It didn't do too much raining, a bit, but cloudy.
No, I was driving home and wipers were on high speed, and I'm pretty much hydroplaning in some of the rut grooves in the road. So it was a good dump.
At least it's not snow.
That's true, although on Saturday I could have gone up to the Powder King Mountain and had 23 centimeters of fresh,
Wow.
fresh snow. Some about, I think, 15 on Friday. And then there's another, I guess, 8 or whatever, or for early Saturday morning. So I could have gone, pulled out the touring skis and gone for a 4-hour tour to get a 30-minute ski.
Wow.
I think our palm trees would really object to that 22 centimeters.
Yeah, no kidding. And probably the
Well,
residents too.
You can probably see some of the banks behind that, somebody standing in the driveway. So
Wow, yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of snow there.
yeah,
Yeah, the flowers are going full blast here now.
now we're not, leaves are just starting to put, just popping out. So I hope by the end of the week they'll be fully.
There you go. It'll be fast.
Anyways, well, I'd like to welcome everyone tonight. It's just after 25 to, and I'd like to welcome Blair Stunder from Prince George Center and chair of the Observing Committee nationally. Welcome tonight, and I'm glad you could join us. On the agenda tonight, I have Randy wanted to say something, I believe. Lori would like to talk about Astronomy Day upcoming, and we have some Edmonton photos via Dave. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to cover
Well,
tonight?
Chris,
Yes, sir.
we have a little ceremony to do. Are you going to speak about that too?
Well,
Or do you
yeah,
want to put this
yes,
to
I can
another
do
week?
that. No. That's all ready to roll.
Okay, great.
I just wasn't throwing myself in there because you're leading it off. So, yeah. But anyways, anybody else have anything, or is that otherwise? Maybe I'll just mention that you probably got the email from National that the new membership site has gone live. And I did try it this afternoon, and it is apparently working. You do need to reset your password. Instructions are in the email on how to do that. So if you're having trouble with that, please let me know. Otherwise, all the best. Over to Randy.
Okay, so Chris, I do have something, but it sounds like it's pretty full, so I can put it off to another week. And I'll just do our little ceremony.
Oh, no, I think we've got time. Well, we'll see. We can come back to it if there's time.
We'll come back to mine later on because it's a bit of fluff. Let's do the important thing,
Okay.
which is going to be here we go. It is with great satisfaction that I get to present, at least digitally, this wonderful certificate, the Explore the Universe certificate. Chris is an experienced astronomer, but he has been putting in the effort to follow the whole Explore the Universe project. It's actually very nice having Blair here because he's is that your signature there?
It's an old one. Yes, they're supposed to be updating to a different signature, but yeah.
Anyway, Chris, it really is an honor and a privilege to be in the club with you, and congratulations.
Way to go. Yay.
Thank you, Randy. And here it is, just came right through the monitor there. So there we go.
Ow!
So no, it luckily arrived today. So thank you very much. Randy had asked me if I'd say a few words about some of the things I did. And actually, again, I would also echo, it's great that Blair's here today because one of the things I have wanted to do since I've been a part of council, and I must say, I don't think I've been terribly successful, is encourage the visual astronomers in the center to do these observing certificates, myself included, obviously. So it's I'm just about up on my 11th year of membership. I joined in May 2010, and here it is 2021. So I've managed to get one certificate done now, so let's hope I can do some more. But this is one of the goals I have had to try and encourage more people. And so I put together just a little bit on that, and I'm just going to share my screen then. And so, are you going to share? You're going to go, no, you want me to do it this way then. There we go. Okay, so this the particular program I did this time was Explore the Universe, but it isn't the only certificate. Right now, this is a list of the certificates that are available with one brand new one, the double stars. And Blair can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that's been awarded yet. I think it's still in its final stages.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then this is, and the year is the first year it was awarded. And then these numbers, as noted at the bottom, are as of the end of last week, how many of the recipients are from our center. So although 164 Explore the Universe certificates have been awarded throughout its lifetime, only 5 have gone to Victoria Center members. Pedro, who's on the call tonight, is he beat me to it earlier this year, and we make up 40% of the Victoria Center recipients. So I think we could do better, I guess, is where I'd like to go with that. So that's why I wanted to highlight this again. Right now, there is the Explore the Moon is being done through a national program, the Moon at Noon. And that's, I think there are some center members participating in that. And then we have actually some of the intermediate certificates have been around the longest, the Messier catalog and NGC objects. And people like Bill Weir have done those, and Nelson Walker, I believe. But we're, basically considering the size of our center and how many visual observers we have, we maybe haven't done as well as we could. So thanks that Randy joined, because he's already gotten two of these certificates in the relatively short time he's been a member. And so that's been good. Blair, do you have any comments about the program?
Well, the Double Stars program is now live. It's been up since, I think, either December or January. So the Double Stars is now up and running. It's a really good one. One of the nice things about the Double Stars is you can do it from a light pollution area. You can have, if the moon is out, it's not going to bother you, say, where you would have some of the deep sky dim objects. The Double Stars one, I mean, as long as you're seeing the stars, you pick up the separation, so you don't need much for really, really good skies for doing that. Blake has been, Nancaro out of the Toronto Center has been working on this Double Stars program for probably about 8 or 10 years. It's one of his.
Well,
he's really dove into and really enjoys doing. So I mean, it's pretty simple. You split the stars, and you're basically reporting the direction in terms of the separation. If it's going to be running northeast, what direction when you're doing your split. So you have to make sure that you have your orientation north, south, east, west in your eyepiece. But it's something that can be done with really poor skies or light, or downtown and light pollution. So it's nice that way.
That's good to know. Yeah. So one of the reasons I think maybe this is timely too is with our special interest groups, we do have a beginners group. And so this is something that may be of interest to some of the members in that group. So, I just remember this is available to you, and this is something that you might want to do. I just wanted to share, how I got to this. So, I mean, as I said, I've been a member since 2010, and I think it must have been fairly early on. I discovered these things existed, and I downloaded the guide, but that was as far as I got that time. And then I was paid a visit to Gary's observatory in 2019. So I decided that I would do a chunk of the program in Arizona because it would we'd get some advantages of being that much further south. So I put together a bunch of equipment, and it did take it down there. And actually I did do when I counted them up, about 30 of the targets. So I was really pleased to do that. But I kind of lost momentum when I got home again. So that was an attempt at 2019. And with the announcement of the ETU online last year that aligned with my retirement from full-time work, I finally decided to do it. And I think I'd also say it was seeing that two other members of the center had completed their certificate this year that got me through to the finish, because I had about 6 or 7 targets left as of March. And I just hadn't quite gotten there again. And so I almost, I could probably let it languish again. So I finally said, no, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get it done. And I think one thing that really helped me this time was that I didn't have to decide what to look at. Jenna Hines and John Reed, who were hosting these sessions, put together a list of things, basically giving us homework for the next 2 weeks. And I found that really helpful. So you wanted to keep up so that, the next week you could show up. So I just wanted to share a few things about how to record. This visual observing log is still around in the site, but I don't think it's currently the most used one. The most used one now has 4 on a page, and I can show you that in a moment. But this is the one I decided to do, and I printed it. So on a landscape page, it's 2 to a page. So basically, you can do a couple of observations at a given time, and then go on to the next one. So I found that that was what I decided to do. Here is kind of some of the stuff I used to do this. Other than looking at things like the constellations and the brightest stars, you don't need any magnification particularly. I used a small telescope because that's helpful for being stable and setting up if you want to do a nice sketch of it. It's nice not to, binoculars are a bit challenging to go up and down and up and down. So it was nice to be able to use the telescope on a tripod, but I also did have the binoculars, the Pocket Sky Atlas, and a nightlight, and that is looking down on it from above, and that's on a music stand. I found a collapsible music stand is nice for especially if you want to be portable. So just to tell you what I did in this, so you are required to look at things in a bunch of different categories. There are 24 constellations, and then there are bright stars, which are typically the named stars in each constellation. On this particular go around, I did 16 out of the 24. You're required to do at least 12. Phases of the moon, I logged 5. You're required to do at least 4 out of 8. Luna basins and Maria, I did 10 with a requirement of 6 out of 12. Impact craters, I just did the 6 because that was one of the areas I hadn't finished, and I knew I was going to take up the Explore the Moon. So I thought I'll check this one off and carry on. I got 6 on the solar system, 3 solar system optionals, which was neat. I did 12 of the deep sky objects and 13 double and multiple stars. And that's good to know that Blair told me that I'm kind of on the way to maybe doing that one of these days. So doing the specialty in that. So just to conclude again then, so a few pages from my log. One of the things that I got was an extra one was a comet. So this was from Mount Tommy on July the 10th. And I believe that was the night that David Lee and Sidhu were also there. And we were able to see the comet, and actually some noctilucent clouds, which I see when I was writing my notes, I didn't know how to spell, but I guess I do now. So that was neat. I think that's the first time I'd noted observing noctilucent clouds as well. Not the first time I'd seen a comet, but that was quite neat. I have both a filtered and a hydrogen alpha telescope. So when was that? On July 26th, I noticed that there was a sunspot with quite a nice penumbra around it. So I got a neutral density drawing of it and then had a look at it through hydrogen alpha. So that was neat. We missed the peak of the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, but I got it the day after. And so we could see Saturn a little bit further, and that's through my telescope, so a little bit further to the west by that point, and then Jupiter, and I could see 4 moons, 2 on each side. And then thanks to Bill Weir pointing out that Uranus would be near the moon one night. I went out the night after, I think, one of the Astro Cafes in March, and got a conjunction of the moon and Uranus. And that's the first time I'd seen Uranus through binoculars that I knew of for sure, because it was so easy to pick out based on seeing it. So I thoroughly enjoyed doing it this time, and I'm glad I did it. And I'm hoping that others in the center will do it as well, just because it's, you know, I think it's worth doing. You learn a lot of the sky, and I'd like to go and see some of the things I haven't seen in this program, you know, through the other parts of the year. So anyways, I think that was it. Yes.
Awesome.
So, yeah. So I think that was it. Randy, I don't know if you wanted to, if you had anything else you wanted to say at this point.
Well, no, I want to really say it's nice to see a observation book done the way that they want it done. I gave Bill a bit of a headache by just going on it my own style. And I think you provide a really good example to make it easier for the person who has to assess it. Bill, do you have anything to say to that?
I'm going to say no comment. That's nice to see, Chris. I'm actually in the middle of doing that myself, to do the Explore the Universe.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not backdating.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm not backdating anything, though. I started it in December to sort of give an idea to myself of how long it actually takes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I just started it with the new program. So I did have the 30 previous ones, but they weren't part of this submission. So I was just looking through to see what were duplicates and what I've actually seen independently each time. So it's certainly more than would be indicated. So I have seen a lot of those targets, but not all of them.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how much it takes to do all of it too.
Yeah.
Not just on the minimum, but
yeah,
go for everything.
That's a good
I
challenge.
think it's really fun seeing all the very experienced observers getting out their small telescopes and, you know, doing the sky the way that they started astronomy, rather than what they know they can do with their fancier equipment.
And so certainly, yeah, I was going to say, so certainly anybody who's in the beginners group, if that's something you're interested in, I'd encourage it.
May I just ask a question of both Bill and Blair, since they're here?
Please do.
I was down with Chris Peirce in Arizona back in 2019, and actually started the whole thing and started writing up quite a lot, and had quite a bit done, because things were just so easily accessible there. It was really good. But then things got just crazy when I came back, and I didn't really finish. So does the Explore the Universe have to be done within a calendar year?
No.
Like from May to May or something like that? Or can we stretch it out just a little bit?
20,
It could
30,
take,
20,
it could
30
take
years.
decades.
Yeah.
I mean, doing
Okay.
some projects do, right? You don't have the weather, you don't have the conditions, and so
Okay.
any
Okay.
of the certificates are as long as it takes.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
awesome.
I was working with the one that was online last year. I just decided to start it again. But yes, I could have had a leg up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think Blair as well. I'm with the EPO group at the national level, and I know that there is a group working with a certificate for like children and youth, or are very, very new beginners, that is going to be coming online sometime soon, and we're trying to get all that organized for just a real beginner certificate for observation.
I know Jenna's a real fire plug there at the head office in terms of always coming up with different programs. The Explore the Universe or the Explore the Moon online last summer, from springtime to September. I mean, it was a challenge squeezing it in that period of time just for where the phases are. A lot of stuff. So you got to start early in the evening to late at night to get it squeezed in that period of time.
Right. Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
I could look this up, I think, but these beginner certificates and this new one, which sounds very interesting for real youth, are they available only to members of the RASC, or could interested kids who are not in an astronomy family maybe try them?
Probably the youth ones, Jenna would be the best one to ask for that. I know on the RSC observing programs, the Explore the Universe is the only certificate and pin that we give out to non-members.
Yeah,
All the rest
Thank
of the
you.
programs you have to be an RASC member to get
Right, yeah.
certification in the pin.
I believe the one for the children though, well, not necessarily for children, but just the really easy ones. I believe that will be something that that will be for non-members as well.
Yeah, that would be very good if that could be the case. It could be a way we could get more interest,
Yes.
starting young.
It'll be coming out. I would say probably in the summer sometime. That we'll do this in the summer. Yeah.
Thanks.
I have a question. I'd like to get started on one of these things. Are they limited to non-go-to scopes, or can you use go-to, or what's the scoop there?
You can do a traditional star hop method, or you can use go-to. Up to probably about 5-6 years ago, the observing committee was really stuck on traditional star hop method, but now go-to is, so we're more concerned right now with eyes to the eyepiece and people observing and looking up.
Okay. How about using setting circles? I'm assuming that's okay too then.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good.
And maybe I'll just mention one more thing. With the latest go round, they've actually put together books, and this is the one for the moon at noon, Explore the Moon. And you can get these from National, and these are pre-printed with, let's see if I can get that so it's hard to see there. There we are. So it's got 4 observing charts on each page. And they did make one of these for Explore the Universe.
Oh, I love that.
So this is available from National. I think it's green cover in that case. And I don't know if this store is back online yet, but it will be shortly in its new incarnation with our new software.
Mhm.
I think they're about $10 or something.
Yeah, that's right. For members, yeah.
One thing I found out by just pressing buttons is you don't really learn the sky, so this would be a good way to learn the sky.
Mhm. Well, it's nice to look back through it and see what you saw, when you saw it, and say, oh yeah, and now I'm doing, a more detailed look at the moon and say, oh yeah, I remember looking at that in the past. And so, okay.
Yeah, good.
You learn by looking and looking and looking and looking. And I guess if you really want to know the moon, you need to do Isabel Williamson.
A quick question here for Chris or Blair. Speaking of Isabel Williams, I printed out a copy of the program a couple of years back locally, and I noticed that there's another version online, a newer version online, but I've gone through and looked at it in detail, and I can't really see any differences between the two. So would it cause any problems if I were to proceed with this, the version I have, or is the newer version the one to go with?
Probably the only difference between the old version and new version is actually where it gets into the application form at the front for filling out, where before it was just fixed fields. Now all the application forms, the PDFs that are on the RASC website, actually have drop-down information. So it's a generic front end, and then you can drop down. The center will be on a drop-down list. There'll be a little triangular icon to the right-hand side of the fields. Click on that, and it'll drop down so you can fill at the center. So it's more just we cleaned up the front end of the application portion of it. So that's why you're seeing probably a 2019 or a 2020 copyright date on it versus the older copyright date.
Yeah,
In the
this
older
is
one?
2006.
In the really old one, there was a less than 24-hour moon required.
Ah.
And that got changed to optional because that's extremely difficult, because that's based on actually 24-hour moon, which you could almost never get in some locations. You know, it's extremely difficult one. I mean, Nelson and I had to do a great deal of planning on that one to get that one. And so, you know.
Okay. No, I was just a little concerned. It seemed a bit of a waste to get the reprint the new one if there were no real differences. As I say, I went through page by page between the two and couldn't see a difference between them. So.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just 3 items. One, you're now certified. Congratulations, I think. 2, Blair, I looked at the double star information on the web, and you guys did a beautiful job designing that, and it looks so professional. So the people, if you know the people who actually did the hard work on that, please say I was really, really impressed. And 3, the Explore the Universe book. There's a bunch of them stored in the trunk of my MGB, and they're available to club members for $12 each. So there you go. Back to you.
Thanks, Reg. Randy, did you have anything else at this point? Are you good? Okay, I think Lori, you'll be up next then. And unmute. There we are.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to bring people up to date a little bit about the International Astronomy Day that is going to be held on May the 15th, which is Saturday, 2 weeks, just a little bit less than 2 weeks from now. And that we hope that everybody will join us. It's going to be from, it'll start at 7 o'clock at night and go to 11 at night. Now, the first hour that we are going to be on is going to be we're going to see if the streaming of the solar telescope is going to work. We're going to have that up, but we'll also have up the virtual tour of the observatory and that available for people to have a look at, and some historical photographs. So it's going to be more or less just you can kind of on your own, you can kind of wander through 2 or 3 of the things that are happening there. And then at 8 o'clock, we'll have our official welcome. And Kim Venn from the university is going to be giving us a talk on the fossil stars of the galaxy, and talking about how those stars will tell us a little bit more about how the origins of our galaxy. And then after that, there's going to be a variety of things happening. There's 3 or 4 other parts that we're going to be putting in, including some work with the astrophotography, in which we have been given permission in order to have a Vox Humana as an audio back tracking with it, which is going to be really lovely. And then we have got Ask an Astronomer with our very own Nathan Hellner Messelman and Jason Beeman, they're going to do an Ask an Astronomer. So I hope to call it more like Stump the Astronomer, and have everybody send in questions so that they can work on those and do some online work there. Then we'll have a planetarium show. I'm going to do this. I'm going to hope, because the planetarium is needing some new repair, and we're hope that within a couple of weeks that will all be done. We have a tour of the UVic telescope. So Karun Thanjavar is going to be streaming from UVic to be able to show you that telescope. So if you've not been up to see that telescope, then here's a good thing to do. A couple of other things that we're planning on as well. And at the end of the evening, between 10 and 11, we're going to be having both the EAA from David's EAA group. Thanks to everybody online here who's part of the EAA group, and with narration from UVic students who are going to be helping along with that. And if everything goes as planned and is lovely, we will have some live streaming from the Plaskett telescope as well. So we've got lots of things planned. We certainly hope that you can come. I mean, if not, you don't have to stay for the entire thing. You can kind of dip in and out in the evening if you'd like to. And we're going to be hosted by, we're hosting it on the National RASC site. So it will be a webinar site. So you will have to register for the program. And so what I'm going to do is just put here, if I can get this, there we go. If I could just share this part to you, that is the webinar registration that is available, and I'm going to be putting that on both the Center of the Universe site, of course, and the RASC site, so that you can register that. We'll have that all on social media and as many places as we can find. So you should be able to get that that registration. So you just have to
And Lori, could you paste that into the chat so people can copy it tonight as well?
Oh yes, okay, I will do that. Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Get that. So if there's any other questions, we'll have some more information on both the FDAO and the RASC websites. Yeah, I can check with people back a little bit more about that. But we hope everybody will join us. We have because it's a webinar, we can have lots of people, and we are hoping, because it's national, that there will be people from across Canada that will join us. I know that it will be very late by the time Eastern and Atlantic people join us, but that's one of the problems and the joys of living out in the West Coast. So, okay, I'll pop that in the chat. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Any questions for Lori?
Okay, well, I'm always available if you need me.
Yeah. So, and yeah, we've been doing some experimenting with getting things to work. So
yeah,
a group of us were having a look at the solar projection. David, Sid, and Lori and I were on the hill and experiencing a power outage up there. So it was quite a fun afternoon.
there was actually, I was up here there today, and there was another one. They did it yesterday, and then there was another big blast, and the generator went back on, and everything went back out again at noon today. So they're having some problems. I hope it's all fixed.
Yes, that's kind of critical for if we're going to try and get on a streaming from up there.
From streaming, it will be. Yeah, we have to have backups of backups of backups. Yeah, to be able to do this.
Would suggest for a solar telescope you use panels. You can get them at Canadian Tire.
There we go. But that might not help us with the Wi-Fi. The routers went down, unfortunately, and they're not on the backup.
Everything went down.
It was a bit of a mess. So. But anyways, yeah. Just to mention too, the friends of the DAO have bought, I guess it's almost the top of the line Coronado solar scope now. So that is quite something to behold. So, we'll hopefully.
One of the really big ones?
Yeah, the 90.
The 90, oh, that's an awesome scope.
Yeah.
I've used one, they're amazing.
Yeah. So hopefully once we are, maybe can reopen that, it will be
available.
Have some good use.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. Well, thank you, Lori.
Thanks.
Dave, should we have a look at the Edmonton photos?
Yeah, we can do that if you want to pop them up for me.
I can do that. Let me.
And it's mostly solar and lunar stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So here's our first one. Let me just get this started as a slideshow.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is Abdur Anwar. He's got a Coronado PST, and he used his ASI camera to take this picture. Some solar prominences on the limb, and he originally shot that in monochrome, but he's false colored it to give it a more natural look, I guess you could say. We've had a fair number of prominences and coronal mass ejections recently. They've had quite a bit of auroral activity in the Edmonton area.
Yeah, unfortunately, yesterday was pretty quiet with the sun. We couldn't
Yeah, it
see
was.
too much, but yeah, earlier in the week it was certainly better, and yeah, late in April. The PST, by the way, what is the is their Coronel just basic solar scope,
the
so you
small-
can see what it does.
It's the small one, and it does a pretty nice job, though.
It sure does.
Beautiful.
So the next
And
one
look
is,
at this.
this is moon set on April 24th. Now, Strathern Park is, as you can imagine, due east of the Legislature Dome. Those little pyramids down in the front is the Mutart Conservatory. There were two on the right. One is the arid pyramid, and the other one is the tropical one, and the one on the left is what they call their show pyramid. If you're ever in Edmonton, you should visit the Mutart. It's quite a nice place to go, particularly in the middle of winter. The moon's sitting right over top of the dome of the Legislature building. That white stuff around it is, they're in the process of doing some long delayed and badly needed building envelope upgrades. I don't know where they're finding the money. Kenny's being the skinflint. The next one is Arnold Rivera. This is his first solar image, and he's got an 80mm Lunt on a Lost Mandy mount, and his ZWO camera that we've seen other stuff him use for. You can see the sunspot grouping that's down on the lower center there. And just to confirm that this isn't drawing dots on a print, if you show the next photo, you will see this is the spaceweather.com image from the same time.
Yeah, I had a look at that cluster of sunspots, and it was really nice.
It's nice to see some activity on the sun again.
Yeah, that was encouraging to see that many, and yeah, all at once.
Can you go back again so we can see the
Yeah, in H alpha they look quite a bit different, don't they?
But I thought it looked like a kind of almost like a little 7 when I looked at it.
Yeah. I'm going to have to break out my little 4-inch ETX knockoff with the solar filter and start setting it up again and having a look at the sun from time to time, because it looks like we're getting some regular activity.
Actually, using just white light filter for solar observing solar sunspots is actually better than HA as it comes out.
Yeah,
HA, of course, is better. Well, it's the only way you can observe prominences.
Yeah.
So Joe, could you expand on that, please? So I was just going to ask that question. You can use HA filters visually, but they don't work very well, you say?
Well, they don't work. It's hard to see the sunspots with HA. You can tune it for the sunspots, all right, but then you'll lose the prominences. So you can go back and forth.
If you have
it's a little more complicated is all, but if you use just a plain old white filter, of course, you're going to see the sunspots very easily.
Yes.
And you can just use those with binoculars.
Right. So you need HA to hydrogen alpha to see this, right?
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
This is as good. This looks like, this is a hydrogen alpha because you can see it with the granulation, but you'd almost see it as well, if not a little better, with a neutral density filter.
Yeah. Although actually, a white filter, you can actually pick up some granulation if you're careful and with your focusing when you take an image of it.
Yeah, if you have a nice steady sky.
Yeah.
And the other thing with this Lunt scope that Arnold has, it's one of the tunable ones. So I'm sure he's tuned this for the surface detail.
Exactly. Yeah,
because you notice there's no prominences there, and yet there very likely would have been. But that would be a separate set of photos.
I run a 60 mil Lunt with tunable and also with an Edelon double stack. And what's nice is when you're tuning from one end to the other, is you'll pick up the different magnetic fields of different temperatures on the surface. So at one point, you may pick up some prominence on the edges, and then as you tune through, you will lose those prominence, but you'll pick up other magnetic fields across the surface of the sun as you're tuning through. So it's actually, you can say you tune to what you want to see.
Yeah.
anyways.
So the next one is, if we can get it to run, this is a composite movie done by Alistair, which he is relatively well known for. This is Moon Set at Sunrise.
Okay, I'll see if it will work.
Yeah. And if you can play the audio, that would be good.
Can you hear the birds?
Nope.
Okay, it's on full blast.
Yeah. And see the sun start to come up
Oh, that's
with the reflection
beautiful.
of the building.
Yes.
That's beautifully done. Give us the link and we'll, people
Yeah,
can
we
play it.
put the link up on
later.
the webpage, and
Sure.
you'll be hear the rumble of traffic and the chirping of the birds first thing in the morning. And
I can hear it here, but it's very faint, so it wasn't
yeah,
very
this
loud.
this too would have been taken on the east side of town, probably up on the overlook where I used to play my recreational soccer games. That really bright building there is the Manulife building in Edmonton.
Well, thanks for sharing those, Dave.
Oh.
And so I think, Randy, we could go back to you if you would you like to carry on?
Excellent. Well, last week I showed a comic from XKCD, this fellow. And this is a one-dimensional logarithmic scale, if you remember, from the grass at the bottom all the way up to the edge of the visible universe up at the top and everything between. Anyway, this was a another one of his wonderful comics. And this is called Possible Undiscovered Planets in Our Solar System. So what we've got here is the diameter of things in the vertical, and in the horizontal, the distance from me. And we'll see that's kind of an ambiguous term, which is not particularly consistent. It turns out that there was a paper that was published about some gravitational perturbations that made the astronomers say there could be a planet 9. Incidentally, one of the co-authors is one of the people who killed the Pluto being a planet. But it was from the publication to when this was published on the line, this cartoon was published online, was 2 days. He put it together very, very quickly. And it's quite wonderful. So the biggest thing that you'll see here is this line, this diagonal line here, which is actually y equals x. So the diameter is the same as the distance. So you see well, take that 10 centimeters there and 10 centimeters in the horizontal. So that is an object that is 10 centimeters in diameter that's 10 centimeters away from you. Well, anything which is larger than the distance from you can't be a planet. Planets ruled out because I would be inside them. So that's fair enough. Earth. So Earth is about 12,000 kilometers in diameter. That's a number I hope everybody has burned into their brain. I'm a geophysicist, so it's important. It's kind of funny saying Earth is 12,000 kilometers away from me, because that's the other side of the Earth. That's right across. So I'm not really sure why he plotted the Earth there. The Earth is, it is 12,000 kilometers in diameter, but it's anywhere from you're standing on it all the way to the other side of the Earth is 12,000 kilometers away from you. So it should be a real, it's a horizontal line here. Moon, on a large scale, it's not that much smaller than the Earth. And the only reason it's not a planet is because it doesn't go around the sun, right? So what are the definitions of the planet is, one, it has to be spherical. It has to be under hydrodynamic equilibrium to make it into a sphere. So the moon does have that, but it doesn't go around the sun. So, it's as big as, I think it's as big as Pluto. Anyway, here are the planets. So can anybody guess what planet is which? Don't be shy. What planets are smaller than the Earth?
So Venus, Mars, and Mercury.
And
Right.
Venus.
So Venus is about the same size as the Earth, so that must be Venus. And in the discussion, there's people who argue about which one of these should be Mercury and Mars. And then up here, these two big guys.
Jupiter and Saturn then.
It's Jupiter, Saturn, and then getting smaller and further away from you are Neptune and Uranus. Now, Pluto actually should be down here somewhere. Randall Munro didn't even put Pluto on. This planet 9, that was the whole motivation for this cartoon, would plot somewhere around here. So that's the only kind of place where you would find a planet. This is stuff we can see through telescopes. And the WISE survey, what is that? That's the infrared survey. NEOWISE is what it's called now because they've lost all their coolant, all the liquid helium in it. So instead of being WISE, it's now called NEOWISE, and it's good for looking for comets, of course. But when it was WISE, it was looking kind of in this zone on this graph, and it didn't see them. Now, once we're getting up into these very large things, much larger than Jupiter, then you're starting to get into stars. You're getting to things that would be shining. So planets ruled out because we would see them during the day, is how we put that. So let's keep going down. Planets ruled out because I would have noticed them above my house. So, if something is 10 kilometers in diameter and 1,000 kilometers above your head, we would have seen that. Here are satellites. I love this. Airplanes are fool's planets. Like fool's gold is pyrite. It's an iron sulfide. Looks like gold. Anyway, airplanes are fool's planets. Don't get fooled. Planets don't flash. Even satellites don't
What
flash.
about UFOs? He doesn't have those on there.
Oh, yes. Got that. And then planets which are actually birds. Okay. Now, once you're into this zone, so you're between 10 centimeters and a meter, but you're within 100 meters, he writes, birds that got into my house. So when we're around here, the distance is really distance from you, right? That's no longer distance on anywhere on the Earth, because some of the birds are actually going to be 12,000 kilometers away, right? Here are giant bugs. So that's giant bugs are anything from about 3 centimeters to 10 centimeters. Yeah, I don't think I want to see a 10 centimeter bug. These are bugs, not planets. Way in the corner here, so well under a millimeter in diameter, and quite a bit less than a centimeter. I hope your skin flora don't go at a centimeter. So that's that. Anyway, so this is very good, except there are inaccuracies, and so somebody fixed it. So let's see some things. Earth should be anywhere from here, surface, that would be the 6,000 kilometers to the center, and there you are at the 12,000. So that's where the Earth would lie. And so let's check where the other planets are. Here's the moon. Mercury, you see how it has a bit of a range, okay? The size is well defined, but yeah, that's right. Mercury and the moon are about the same size. But it has a range. Mars has a larger range. There's Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune are pretty close. Now, Pluto would be here. Not quite in where he did dwarf planets. Here's the sun. And then in some billions of years, when it uses up its hydrogen, then it will zoom out to becoming a red giant. And the exciting thing there is it gets into this kind of forbidden zone. It will have a larger diameter than, well, a larger radius than the radius of the Earth's orbit. The Earth will be inside it. So that's kind of a, you know, it turns into like a Betelgeuse sort of planet. Here's Alpha Centauri. So this is kind of the realm of stars up here. Are there any other jokes that I should do? Oh yeah, Superman. You know, is it Superman a bird or a plane? Well, Superman would be somewhere, depending on how high he's flying that day, would be around here. I think that's the story. So there you get a good little workout on a log scale, because people don't think enough about what happens when you look over many, many orders of 10. Thank you.
Cool.
Different way of looking at it.
Comments or questions?
It shows the dangers of using non-peer-reviewed information on the web. That's all I can say.
Very
There's
good.
always a fact checker out there.
That's fun, Randy.
So what's on the agenda for this week? Are there any SIG meetings? Those who are.
Yeah,
There's one this
there
week,
is.
right?
Yeah, there's two this week, actually.
Two this week, okay.
Yeah, and for the EAA group, we have kind of an intermediate meeting in the middle of the week. But let me just start on Tuesday. So tomorrow night we're getting started in astronomy, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we can see in different types of telescopes. There was a comment from a few of the members of the SIG that it was kind of important to understand what you could see in each type of scope. So I'm hoping the more seasoned members of our group will sort of chime in and tell us what they can see through their regular scopes. And on Wednesday, as Lori mentioned, we're actually working with a group of UVic students, the same facilitators that work open house on Wednesday nights. They've kindly are going to help us narrate some of the work that the EAA group is doing. So my big thanks to the EAA group, by the way, even beforehand. I'm hoping that we're going to have some material to use on Astronomy Day and then over the summer as well. And it's been really a lot of fun, actually. It's quite interesting to sort of explore the whole concept of EAA. I know people have been sort of doing it in a spotty kind of way, but it's been a lot of fun doing it with a group that's actually really focused on doing it. And of course, Thursday night is the EAA group, where we're going to talk about strategies. Anyways, that's all I got for this week for SIGs.
So David, I have a question for the EAA group. So we're meeting twice this week?
The Wednesday is optional. I just want to introduce everybody to the 3 UVic students that are going to help us narrate the material. Okay. It'd be nice for you to meet them, and you can ask them some questions. And also, I'm hoping that we can show them a few samples so you can see what they're going to work with.
Okay.
Does anybody else have anything for this evening?
Yeah, just have one more thing to note. If anybody has been following what the tides have been doing for the last week, we're right at the end of a series of very low tides. Tonight, it's just a hair over a meter above datum, and the high tides are at 3 meters. Last week, midweek, we were down around 200 centimeters from datum, and we had a little over 3 meter tides. So the total tide was about 3 meters. So if you keep your eyes open for the next couple of days, the low tides are gradually going to creep up and the high tides are going to drop a little bit over the next week. But that's another thing you might want to think about in terms of your observing regime, is what the moon does to us and the sun do to us over a period of time with tides. And we're in a location where we can look at things like Cadbro Bay and Cordova Bay, where the tides are quite high. The other impact of that is we were driving past Clover Point the other day, and there were huge standing waves out because these tides produce large tidal currents. So you might want to have a look at the tidal currents when we get these large tides as well.
So David, I just popped up my tide predictor, Hilton Pat Bay. On Friday, the 28th of May, we're going to have below zero high tide, low tide, and just about a 12-foot high tide, which is very, very big.
Yep, yep.
Wow.
So that's something to keep near the end of the month is again, we're going to get a sequence of these very low tides followed by very, very high tides. And sometimes they don't occur at convenient hours, but it's certainly interesting to watch.
Are these known as the king tides?
They quite often referred to as spring tides.
Spring tides, okay.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a king tide?
I think king tide just generally refers to the very high and low tide separations. And the worst ones don't always occur because it depends on how close the Earth is to the sun and where the moon is in its orbit as well. So we just came past the moon at perigee, but we're still a ways away from the sun. If we get those ones where the moon is at perigee and we're closer to the sun, that's when we get the really big ones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there's also, especially important in Vancouver in the Fraser Delta, where a lot of the people live below high tide.
Yeah.
And they call the king tide when there's a storm plus these super high tides and you get the flooding. And I've heard the term king tide for those times when places like Delta are actually
inundated.
Yeah.
It backs up the river. Yeah.
And they're looking at something like $10 billion to raise the dikes on the Fraser River and around the Delta to accommodate the 1 meter projected sea level rise by 2100.
Yeah, that's another thing to think. I noticed we have a new house at the end of Sinclair, right on the bay, the Cadbro Bay Park, and they built a big stone wall around the outside of their perimeter facing the park, and they had these great big eye bolts sticking out from the wall, and I wondered what the hell they were. So I asked the contractor, and he said, "Oh, that's for when we get a tsunami, and the water goes over the wall and collects in behind. We pull the wall down so it can drain." Oh man,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
George points out that we have a total lunar eclipse visible totally on the west coast. So yes, that will correspond with the high tides.
So 2 things to look forward to then.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just on that note, Dave. I'm surprised that people can buy insurance for that area now. But
well, these people they don't need insurance. These are members of the Thompson Publishing family.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
They have lots of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. They self-insure.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the government does.
Yeah.
when I was growing up in Richmond, the combination of the high tides and wet weather always made for interesting ditch situations. Sometimes you couldn't tell where the lawn ended and the ditch began.
I look for the low tides when it's either early in the morning or late at night, because then I take my fly rod down to do some casting practice without worrying about hitting people on the back cast. I can walk out to the edge of the low tide and not worry about hitting people on my back cast.
Okay.
Good.
Great. Is there anything else for this evening?
Yeah, Chris, I have one more comment.
Oh, please.
I just wanted to let people know that I've started my variable star observing journey now. And I just wanted to mention that it really isn't that constraining, actually. At first, I thought I would need to have very specialized equipment, but apparently not. And you don't even have to have particularly a good mount, because even a little bit of trailing is okay, apparently. And you can do it during moonlight times. So there's a lot of impetus to, I guess, encourage people to do this type of observing, because it could be done in the off time. So if the weather's not perfect, that's still okay. If there's moonlight, that's still okay as well. So let me know if you're interested. I was actually quite surprised by what the requirements are, or the apparent almost lack of requirements. Like, you don't really need perfect kind of observing conditions. Yeah, if you want to break from pretty pictures. Anyways, yeah.
What are
just,
your
drop
targets,
me a line.
David?
I haven't picked one yet, but there's a couple of references that let you pick things. My mentor is suggesting maybe Delta Scuti type things. There's a bunch of stuff in the Cassiopeia area. Actually, they're all over the place. I'm actually quite intrigued by the ones that happen over the course of hours. So I'm quite excited to do that one first. I'm a big believer in almost an instant win the first go to sort of encourage me. So I'm going to pick something that has a very rapid period. Apparently some of these are like just over several hours. So if you're willing to set up and capture for a couple of hours, you're good to go. There's some that are much more long-term projects where you have to observe over the course of maybe weeks and sometimes months or years. But I'm looking for the quick wins, so I'm going to be trying to get some of the really short period ones.
Is this through the AVSO?
It is actually. I just joined recently, and I just caught a few of their free webinars, and it was just kind of interesting to know that even though they prefer for you to use monochrome cameras, you can even use a digital SLR actually if you want to. In fact, there's a really good webinar out right now just specifically on that. I'm actually quite interested to see what these new generation of cameras are going to offer for that. I currently use a color ASI 183C MC, and even though it's not necessarily super appropriate for photometry, apparently you can do it, because just like you can use a digital SLR, you can use a one-shot color sensor as well. But I'll be using an Attic 460EX, which is mono, so I should be good to go with that.
Or you can use eyeballs.
Or you can use eyeballs, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Bill, because I'm planning on straddling my electronic detection with my visual eyeballs, because they actually really recommend, even though you might do this electronically, and it's quite aided by photometric software, it's good to get a feel for what visual kind of variable star observing is like. And the principles are the same. I mean, you basically have a target star that you're aware that might have variability, and then you have these comparison stars. So one of the big thing on their website is that you can go and put a candidate star in, and it'll print a finder chart. And the finder chart will have on it your target and then the comparison stars. So whether you're doing it visually or using electronic instrumentation, the principle is the same. You're doing comparisons in the same field between comparison stars and the target.
Yeah, about 10 years ago in Edmonton, there were a couple of guys that did pretty regular variable star observations, just visually. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I don't know what made me want to do it. I guess I was looking for something other than just kind of pretty picture imaging, which is fine. But the thing that attracted me to it was the fact that you could use nights that you would throw away for pretty pictures. You can use them actually, and you can use them to, you know, produce or capture knowledge about the variability of stars. So it just kind of opened things up. To me, I watched a little animation the other day, and they showed a star field. I think they showed a star field of a globular, and I can't remember which globular it was, but they showed kind of like a time lapse, and you could just see these stars blinking in and out or changing illumination where other ones just stayed steady. So I found that fascinating. I never thought about that time aspect.
Add Beetlejuice to the list now.
Oh yeah, of course. That's a big one actually. In AAVSO, they've been talking about Betelgeuse big time, but I'm talking about a lot of these other stars that never see airtime. You know, like people don't go to the trouble of taking that step to look at them. But as I mentioned, this time lapse was just fascinating because I could see these stars just kind of dimming and brightening, you know, over time. So where the other ones just stayed steady. So that's a time aspect of viewing that I've never really explored before. Yeah, I'm really stoked. I'm really excited to do this.
Boy, the head of the AVSO, Stella Kafka.
Oh,
Is that
she's
right?
amazing. Yeah, she's amazing.
She was on Chris Beckett and his friend Shane. They have a little podcast out of Saskatchewan, and they had her on one day.
Yeah.
And man, she a dynamic speaker. She could make anybody want to do variable
Well, she made me
stars.
she made
She
me want to
made
do it.
anybody do variable star observing. She was so excited about it. It was crazy.
Yeah, she was actually the one that showed that little time lapse. Actually, I should dig up the video and then send it to everybody, because it's just like, I don't know how you could not want to do it after watching it. Actually, yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And she was really excited doing it, just like with binoculars and looking at stars and judging.
That's her big claim to fame. Actually, I think she has like 25 binocular observations in the database or something like that.
Yeah,
and she was quite proud of that, actually. Yeah, it runs a gamut. You don't have to have fancy equipment. I mean, it helps for some things, but not for everything. So, anyways, if you're interested, just drop me a line, and I'll see if I can send out that link to that video.
Yeah, maybe you could put something together for us once you've gathered some stuff. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I'll definitely share my first light curve with you guys.
Thank you.
Anything else?
A quick question for the makers, SIG. I've been doing hand-to-hand combat with the Gmail mailing service, and I think I might have finally gotten success with it. But I just wanted to check and make sure that the last item that I sent out a day or two ago for the makers SIG actually made it out to people.
Yeah, I got it loud. Yeah, got it loud and clear, Jim. And thank you for doing that. I knew most of them, but I didn't know all of them. So I think that was really, really useful to have that. I'm actually looking forward to maybe checking out some local resources. I might check out the Makerspace as well. It's hard to own all those kind of tools.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, one that I was really excited, I completely forgot about during the meeting we had online, but was the Public Lab website that I mentioned down there, because not only do they have public science projects that people can join in with, but they also have the spectral workbench for doing spectral analysis for just about anything, and quite a few different tools and procedures for working with that. So I thought that might be something that we might consider as well.
Yeah, I think so for sure. And I think it was mentioned last week that people wanted a spectroscopy spot. So I'm going to try to get a hold of Tom Field of RSpec and maybe get him to kind of guest speak one night on Cafe.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are some things on this week. We may get some intermittent clear skies, maybe. So we'll see what happens this week. And yeah, if that's it, we'll adjourn until next Monday.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining tonight, and we'll see you again.